I grew up in one of those quiet, suburban neighborhoods where nothing ever really happened. The kind of place where people left their doors unlocked. Kids played outside until the streetlights came on, and the biggest neighborhood scandal was when someone's dog got loose. It was safe, predictable. At least that's what we thought. It started so small, we didn't even notice at first. A loaf of bread missing from the pantry, a milk carton half empty when my mom swore she'd just bought it the day before. My dad blamed my brother and me for eating everything in sight, but we knew it wasn't us. Then there were the noises, soft scuffling in the walls, light scratching sounds at night. My mom joked that we had mice. My dad thought it was squirrels in the attic. They even set traps, but nothing was ever caught. But the weirdest part? Sometimes we'd come home and find things just slightly out of place. A chair moved an inch to the left, a cabinet door ajar when no one had opened it. At first, we brushed it off. It was easy to dismiss, until the day my dad found the crawl space. There was a small, unused storage area behind the laundry room, one we never thought twice about. It was always locked, but one afternoon, my dad went to grab something and noticed the door was open. Just slightly, but enough to make his stomach drop. Inside, the dust on the floor wasn't undisturbed like it should have been. There were footprints, not old, faded ones, fresh ones. Someone had been in there. He shut the door and locked it tight. That night, my dad checked every door and window in the house, locking them for the first time since we'd moved in. My mom seemed shaken, but we all tried to move on, telling ourselves it had been nothing. And for a while, it was. Until one night, when I woke up at 3 a.m. At first, I wasn't sure what had woken me. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels unnatural, like the world was holding its breath. My room was dark, the only light coming from the street lamp outside, casting long, soft shadows through my window. Then I heard it, the sound of my closet door creaking open. I froze, every nerve in my body locking up. My brain struggled to rationalize it. Maybe it was the air conditioning shifting things. Maybe I had left it cracked open. But then I saw him, crouched inside my closet. His shape was barely visible in the darkness, but the way the moonlight hit his eyes, they glowed, wide, unblinking, locked onto mine. I could feel my pulse hammering in my skull. And then, without a sound, he lifted a finger to his lips. I couldn't breathe. My mind was screaming at me to move, run, do something, but my body refused to obey. He was too close. If I moved too fast, he could grab me before I made it to the door. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, like snapping out of a nightmare, my instincts finally kicked in. I let out the loudest scream of my life. Footsteps pounded down the hallway. My dad burst into the room just as the man moved, but not toward the door. He disappeared into the wall. I barely processed it through my panic, but in the chaos, I saw it. He had carved out a hidden passageway in my closet, a hole just big enough for someone to squeeze through, and it led straight back to the crawl space. I always thought I was safe at home. Doors locked, alarm system on, lights flickering from the TV in the living room when no one was there. But safety is just an illusion. That night, my parents were out at a dinner party. I had the house to myself, something that never really bothered me before. I liked the quiet. It made it easier to focus on studying, with no distractions, no background noise, just me, my books, and the occasional glance at my phone. The night stretched on. Midnight came and went, and my eyes started to blur from exhaustion. That's when I decided to call it quits. I got up, stretched, and walked to the bathroom. But as I passed my bed, something felt off. It was subtle, but I noticed it immediately. My bed sheet was hanging lower than usual, draping slightly over the edge, like it had been pulled from underneath. I stopped. For a second, my brain scrambled for a logical explanation. Maybe I had made the bed too loosely that morning. Maybe I had kicked the sheets without realizing it. But then, something deep in my gut told me to look. Slowly, I bent down, gripping the edge of the sheet between my fingers. I hesitated, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it. Then I lifted the sheet, and there he was, a man lying under my bed. He wasn't curled up, wasn't hiding. He was flat on his stomach, his arms pressed to his sides like he had just slid under there, and his eyes were open, wide, unblinking, staring straight at me. My lungs froze, my vision blurred at the edges, every muscle in my body locked up, paralyzed by sheer, animal terror. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I couldn't. If I screamed, what if he lunged at me? What if he grabbed my ankles before I could run? I forced myself to stay still. I kept my breathing even. I made it look like I hadn't seen him. Then, I stood up. Slowly, casually. I walked across the room, heart pounding so hard it hurt, grabbed my phone off the desk, and typed out a single word. Help. I sent it to my mom. Then, I kept walking. Not running, not rushing. I moved like I was just heading downstairs for a snack. But the second I stepped out of my room and into the hallway, I heard it. The rustling of sheets. He was moving. I didn't turn around. I ran. My feet slammed against the hardwood floor as I bolted down the stairs. I flew into the kitchen, yanked open a drawer, and grabbed the first knife my fingers wrapped around. Then I sprinted to the bathroom, slammed the door shut, and locked it. Silence. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and uneven, my pulse hammering so violently I thought I might pass out. Then, a soft creak, a footstep. Outside the bathroom door, I pressed my hand over my mouth, forcing myself to stay silent. Then, out of nowhere, the sound of the front door unlocking. My parents. I heard their voices, their footsteps, and then my mother screamed. By the time the police arrived, the man was gone, but he hadn't left empty-handed, because when they checked under my bed, they found something, a knife and a note. I almost had you. Home is supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be where you feel protected. But that night, I realized something that still keeps me awake. I had spent hours in my room that night, reading, scrolling my phone, texting my friends, and the entire time, he was under my bed, watching, waiting. When my sister had her first baby, she was obsessed with checking on him. New mom anxiety, you know? She had a video baby monitor set up in his room, one of those with night vision, so she could see him at all times, even in the dark. At first, I thought she was just being overprotective, but after what I saw, I don't blame her anymore. That night, I was at her house while her husband was working late. She asked me to watch the monitor while she took a shower. The baby had been fussy earlier, but now he was sleeping soundly in his crib. The room was dim, the soft glow of a nightlight casting shadows on the walls. I sat on the couch, casually scrolling my phone, glancing at the monitor every few minutes. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. At first, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. I frowned and leaned closer to the screen. The crib was still there. The baby was still there. But so was something else. A man, standing over the crib, perfectly still. My breath caught in my throat. He wasn't holding the baby. He wasn't touching him, just watching. The night vision made everything look distorted, but I could see him clearly. Tall, thin, dressed in dark clothes. His face was blurred, like the camera couldn't focus on it. And then he moved. Not a normal movement, not like shifting weight or turning his head. It was fast, too fast, like a glitch in a video. I shot up from the couch, my whole body screaming, "Go check the baby." I ran to the nursery, heart slamming against my ribs. I burst through the door, and the room was empty. The baby was there, sleeping peacefully in his crib. The closet door was shut. The window was locked from the inside. There was no one else in the room, but I knew what I saw. I stood there panting, trying to convince myself that it was just a glitch in the monitor, a trick of the shadows, something explainable. But then I heard it, a click, the monitor. I turned around, and on the screen, in real time, the closet door was open. We called the police. They checked the house, the locks, the windows. Nothing. But my sister, she couldn't let it go. The next day, she reviewed the past few nights of footage from the monitor's recording. And that's when she found something even worse. The man, he had been appearing in the nursery for weeks, every night, between 2 and 3 a.m., always standing in the same spot, always watching. But the worst part, the night I had seen him on the monitor, was the first time he had ever turned to face the camera, and he had been smiling. Some things can't be explained. We moved the crib into my sister's room that night. She never used the monitor again, and as far as I know, she never checked the footage again either, because some things are better left unseen.